Welcome to the Mukilteo Football Show. My name is Miles. The Jacksonville Jaguars treat us to another Saturday night thriller, a 31-30 victory. The guest this time, the Los Angeles Chargers, in the most Chargers game of all time. They were up 27-0 and then lost to the Jaguars 31-30. Justin Herbert's going home. Derwin James going home. Joey Bosa going home. It's brutal for the Chargers. And somewhere Phillip Rivers is knowingly nodding as the Chargers give up this big lead. Third string left tackle. They got 3 wide receiver sets with some guy named Bandy. The kicker misses a crucial field goal. The defense collapses. Rivers is cracking open a non-alcoholic beer and knowingly nodding. Meanwhile, the Jaguars, this was amazing for Trevor Lawrence. From a 4-interception first half nightmare to a 27-0 playoff comeback dream. Amazing. The game, we had Al Michaels on the call. Tony Dungy, not as enthusiastic. We woke Tony Dungy up from a nap for this game. He's got 14 things to say. The Chargers really want to get the ball to Austin Eckler. Jaguars down 17, but they shouldn't forget to run the ball, Al. Can't do a delay a game at the 1-yard line. Can't do that, Al. It's like, Dungy, does he even want to be there? He's like barely awake. But the game was pretty boring at the beginning. The Chargers dominated. It was Justin Herbert sidearm throws versus Trevor Lawrence interceptions. And a lot of them weren't his fault. That was the big subject in the first half. One deflected. One was a bat down. One was a great disguise by the Brandon Staley Chargers defense that looked to be so good there. Khalil Mack. Asante Samuel's got 3 interceptions. Asante Samuel Jr. Jaguars fans are thinking, there was inklings of this in the Titans game last Saturday night. The Jaguars offense couldn't do anything. Now you combine it with interceptions, and that's how you get down 27-0. But Jaguars scored before the half, and they gave us a little bit of hope that wouldn't be a day of blowouts, especially with knowing that tomorrow Super Wildcard weekend continues with a Skylar Thompson game versus the Bills and probably an Anthony Brown game versus the Bengals. It would have been kind of a bummer to have both games today as blowouts. We'll talk about Seahawks 49ers right after this. But first half, 27-7. Chargers are feeling good. I posted on Twitter. I've got the receipts. It's my easy call, but it's a good call. I said Chargers fans should not feel comfortable. They did not deserve that lead. They had multiple punts, multiple failed red zone possessions. The interceptions seemed to be mostly luck, at least half of them. They got a punt that bounced directly off the head of a Jaguar. They fumbled a jet sweep to Michael Bandy, who didn't want the ball, and Chargers, of course, recovered that. Eckler's got 2 touchdowns, but 15 yards. All of this is, it wasn't convincing. And then the comeback began. Third quarter, it started with the way that a lot of comebacks start, which is one big drive. The Jacksonville Jaguars, that 89-yard drive to take up most of the middle of the third quarter, a couple of close third downs. Chargers almost had it snuffed. Joey Bosa was offsides on a big sack. And then the Jaguars end up scoring that touchdown. And the Chargers, they just couldn't do anything on offense. Like I said, down to the third string left tackle, just the Chargers just crumbling away with injury. Always. How? How is it always like this for the Chargers? And then the Jaguars get the ball again. And by the end of the third quarter, it's 30-20. Trevor Lawrence, who legitimately had memes and stuff posted, I saw them, I commented on them, that said, is he the worst playoff quarterback of all time? That happened at halftime. That's the internet, folks. He leads 2 touchdown drives. Now they're only down by 10. I don't know. It was exciting. The Jacksonville crowd made it exciting. They were loud. They were in it. Really from the start of the second half, down by 20, they were loud. And Lawrence was pacing the sideline like a real Jaguar. And the fourth quarter was just the hits. The Chargers collapse hits. You got to have a missed field goal in there, right? I knew it. Al Michaels, not to say it's his fault, but he introduced Dicker the kicker earlier in the half, saying that Dicker had saved the Chargers from their kicking woes. And at that point, I knew something is going to go wrong with the Chargers in the kicking game. Herbert's one good drive in that fourth quarter. Dicker, the field goal guy, misses the 40-yard field goal when they were up 10. Lawrence takes the next drive down. That's the big Christian Kirk drive, big Evan Ingram play. Christian Kirk scores with a corner 9-yard touchdown. Jacksonville is within 4 points with 5 minutes to go. There's a false start call or non-call that Joey Bosa is pissed about. He throws his helmet down, gets flagged for it. His helmet's like close to hitting his own people. Like it's really close to Brandon Staley. But I think that's what made Doug Peterson go for 2. Use that penalty to their advantage, because if you go for 2 at that point, then you're at the 1-yard line because of the penalty. And they do, and they get it, which made it 28-30 instead of 27-30 or 26-30, meaning a field goal wins it. What a gutsy call by Doug Peterson. He's been known to roll the dice, right? Philly special, cough, cough. It was amazing. And the Chargers immediately went 3 and out. I hate to turn on Herbert, but where were you, man? This is just like Oregon. Justin, everything looks so good. Golden arm, tall, perfect passes, perfect spiral, never makes any mistakes. Where were you? Why does it always look so good and mean nothing? I hate to turn on Justin Herbert, but this was my stuff with him. When I admittedly was wrong about him coming into the draft, I said we should take Tua over Herbert. I admit that I was wrong, but the thing that I just couldn't understand is why does Oregon suck with this guy? Why can't they compete? And now it's the Chargers' problem. I don't know. That's for another time. The Jaguars get that final drive. Kyle Van Noy almost saves the Charger season by picking it off, but it would have been a tough one. And then the 4th and 1 out of the T formation, 3 backs in the backfield. I think that really it was more the QB sneak formation. You think the 3 backs behind there are going to help push Trevor Lawrence. Instead, they hand it off to Etienne, who's running off tackle, gets to the sideline, 25 yards, sets up the game-winning field goal. The kicker makes it, gets carried off the field. It's like, that guy's barely played. Amazing. Jaguars win. Duval County's going nuts. Tom Petty is celebrating. Oh, Tom Petty didn't care about the Jaguars, but it is his area. Oh, and what strikes me about the whole comeback is that it really didn't even feel that frantic. I don't remember watching the Frank Reich Bills comeback over the Oilers live. Obviously, I think I was like 5 years old, but I've seen it, and it feels a little bit more frenetic. It's the Oilers' huge plays in the half, and the Bills, they just scrape and claw in a perfect game and pull it off. And then there's also the 28-point Colts comeback that the Alex Smith Chiefs gave up to Andrew Luck. And that one too was just, fumbles going all over the place and crazy luck that happened for the Colts. This was just kind of Jaguars rolling to a kind of a dominating half. And they weren't perfect. It was just a regular win. It's weird. The Chargers just went away. And we'll have time to discuss Trevor Lawrence's, 4 TD, 4 interception thing. We'll talk about the Jaguars pass rush. That we saw it versus the Titans. Now here we see it again versus the Chargers. It's kind of exciting. Maybe gives them a hope over likely Kansas City. We'll talk about that more when we preview the divisional games with Kirk. But the last thoughts have to be on the Chargers. And whose fault was this? Brandon Staley's getting a big chunk of it. as he should be. I think they came out flat in the second half. I know people are saying like, oh, they passed too much. I don't know that that's really it. There's another world where they handed the ball off to Austin Eckler for more 2.9 yards per carry, because that's what they were doing in this game. You know, it was just the overall inefficiency of the Joe Lombardi offense in the second half. I don't think it would have mattered passing or running. They were going to be punting the ball a lot. And they were flat. The injuries were just, I mean, what is it about the Chargers? Why can they not keep any stars healthy? Or is it just that they are just, is there something within the franchise that can't promote depth? I don't know. But the short passing game has failed the Chargers 2 seasons in a row. I think it's the primary blame. Not that they passed, but that the passing game is so inept. It's so predictable. Without the turnovers in the second half, it was pretty easy to just clamp down on Justin Herbert, as he's been clamped down the whole season. You know, that Justin Herbert looks great and puts up a lot of big numbers, but not really the most important number. The Chargers are never that high scoring. And the defense gives up a lot of points. And they were never on the field together. Well, I don't know what it is. All right. Let's talk about the other game, the earlier game. My hometown Seahawks in Santa Clara for the San Francisco 49ers. Wildcard weekend started with what we thought was a potential upset. The Seahawks were giving the 49ers a scare. The 49ers are up 10-0. The Seahawks turned that around to lead at halftime, 17-16. You know, it was pretty impressive. Brock Purdy looked shaky. You know, Seahawks had this big drive with Walker touchdown, a big bomb to DK Metcalf. They kind of got a late field goal there after the 49ers got a late field goal. The game stayed scary for San Francisco fans until about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. And that's when the 49ers had their own drive. McCaffrey's doing awesome. Purdy sneaks in a touchdown. And the Seahawks just won't go away, though. Now they're driving. Metcalf, 25 yards, 3rd and 7 conversion, 3rd and 12 conversion to Lockett. The Seahawks are in the red zone, down by 6. You're thinking, oh, God, they're going to take the lead. Seahawks will not go away. And that's when fumble forced from Geno. Nick Bosa recovers it, a red zone turnover, and everything unraveled from there. You know, it just the way you kind of knew it would, because the 49ers had so much more talent on the field than the Seahawks. Christian McCaffrey just running the heck out of the ball. Deebo Samuel looking good. You know, a tisk to one of our players. I need to look up who that was who tried to twist Deebo's ankle. Like, get the hell out of the league, man. Get the hell out of the league. That's not cool. Juwan Jennings made that big play, his one big play every game. Brock Purdy had this, you know, wild scramble back there and comes back to the other side of the field, throws it to Elijah Mitchell. There's a big 74-yard Deebo play, and I'm just describing the game. But eventually, it's 41-17, and the game's basically over. 49ers dominated. They will host a playoff game next week because they are the 2 seed. Who knows who that'll be? Will it even be a really good team? Like, if the Giants win against the Vikings, which is very possible tomorrow, then the 49ers will host the winner of Buccaneers-Cowboys. And I don't think Buccaneers-Cowboys, either of them, maybe the Cowboys, but haven't really, you know, they're not really a big threat. Kind of waiting for 49ers Eagles before we really test Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy had 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. A stat line unlike any of Jimmy Garoppolo's playoff stat lines. Not saying he, you know, drove this success. He's not Joe Montana. You know, we're in the hot take world. You know, in TV and internet. If you say Purdy is doing something special, then you're just getting blasted for, you know, he's not even Kirk Cousins, much less Tom Brady. You want to call him Tom Brady? Like, no, Brock Purdy is doing something special because of relative to what we thought. You know, it's all in the gray. Because if you say, on the other side, if you say Purdy is just clearly benefiting from the great roster around him, Then you get blasted for minimizing the performance and the person. How dare you? How dare you? Just because he's a 7th-round pick, you think he's irrelevant? No human is irrelevant. It's like the real answer is just boring. It is an awesome and inspiring story that this 7th-round rookie, Brock Purdy, is able to play up to a point where he is not a drag on the roster. Now, I'm not saying he exceeds that, but getting to that point is pretty good. And giving this team a chance to win a Super Bowl. Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Ayuk. Defense is loaded. Nick Bosa, Greenlaw, Fred Warner. This team, 49ers are looking, this may be their year. This may be their year. But Seahawks were the first team to off into the sunset, take a look back at Super Wildcard weekend and say, see you next year. DK Metcalf, by the way, had a great game, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns, the best statistical wide receiver day in Seahawks playoff history. He barely passed up 1987 season Steve Largent that had to be getting on for him. He had to be in his 30s by that point. He had 132 yards and 2 touchdowns at the Oilers in the Astrodome, returning to Houston, who cut him. Warren Moon was the Oilers quarterback. I think Seahawks lost that game in overtime. So 49ers beat Seahawks. I'm bummed as a Seahawks fan. This is blasphemy maybe to say, but this is the least upset I have been about losing to San Francisco in like 15 to 20 years. I'm sure part of it is the fact that we gave them a fight at first. We put a little bit of fear into them, and we were such big underdogs. It wasn't like 2013 when we were both, playing a basic Super Bowl in 2013 NFC title game. I hated Jim Harbaugh and the Colin Kaepernick, running offense. I hated all that. And I have everyone who listens to this podcast know I am a huge hater of Jimmy Garoppolo. The guy sucks, and everyone gives him every single chance. And maybe that's because he's handsome, and maybe because he seems like a legitimately good dude. But I sports hate him. But, I've always been a Kyle Shanahan fan ever since Atlanta. Actually, ever since Houston. And I don't have anything against Brock Purdy. And then Christian McCaffrey is one of my favorite players. And so is Deebo Samuel. Am I really that against the 49ers? I don't know. I know this is blasphemy. I know I'm a Seahawks fan. I'll probably root for the Eagles if that's the title game. Probably root for the Vikings if that's next weekend's game, but we shall see. All right, we will be back tomorrow to talk the 3 other games of the Wild Card weekend. We'll be back Monday to talk Cowboys, Buccaneers. We'll be back Tuesday to preview the divisional games. You got a lot of Mukilteo football show coming up for you. My name is Miles, and good night.